Hi, thanks again for tuning in to Sin's Workshop. Hope you're all having a great day. We're just going to jump right into it. Today we're talking about A Dance with Fate by Juliet Marillier. This is the second novel in her Warrior Bards series. Honestly, I loved the first novel. I thought it was really interesting. I thought it was very cool. And I love how she has a very strong female character leading sort of the pack. The novel does break up between three sort of perspectives. You have Dal, her brother Brock, and Laban, which I really hope I'm saying her name right, because you can never be too careful. It's a lot of Celtic influences driving this novel, and to be perfectly honest, I found it incredibly engaging. Excuse me, sorry. Today I'm joined by my son, so if you hear nursery rhymes in the background, that's him playing with his nursery rhyme game. In any case, I really love this novel. I really love the fantasy, and I love the development of the novel. It's refreshing to me to read something like this. If you follow me, I read a lot of young adult fiction and a lot of young adult fantasy. That's because I'm very picky when it comes to my high fantasy. My high fantasy, my adult fiction scope is not as broad as it used to be. I used to read Dragonlance all the time. I'm a huge Dragonlance fan. I pretty much read almost every single Dragonlance book ever published. There are a few that I haven't read, much to my dismay, but they don't publish them anymore, so that was really the bulk of my high fantasy adult fiction background. It's really hard for me to get into them. I don't know why, but when it comes to fantasy, I tend to be a little picky sometimes, but here, I love this novel. I can't say that enough. I thought it was really good. I thought it was very well structured, because it breaks the story up between these three characters. And as much as we get to see the story unfold, you get to see the character dynamics unfold even more. I will say this, there is slightly less fantasy in this novel than there was in the predecessor. The predecessor dealt a lot with a magical harp, the Harp of Kings, and it was more involved with the fae folk, the fairies. In this novel, not so much. Dao is unfortunately blinded in an accident, and he is forced to go back home. If you read the first novel, his home life, he ran away from it because it was very abusive. It was very unsafe for him to stay in that household. So now he's forced to return to that. And Liobhan, Liobhan, that's how you spell her name. I have it memorized. Liobhan, she goes with him as a bond servant because she feels partly guilty for his accident, but also she has this need to protect him from his abusive family, and it's a really good reason. It's good that she does go, because I don't know how the story would have unfolded without her there. It probably would have been much crueler and much darker, given who his brother is. Seanan, Seannan, that's his brother. But I thought it was really engaging to see their relationship flourish between Dao and Laban, because in the first novel, they didn't much like each other. She thought he was just kind of a pretty boy. He didn't think a woman had any place to be a warrior like himself. But the events of the first novel really brought them closer together. It made them closer friends. And in this novel, they are very strong friends, but you kind of got a hint of some romance between them in the first novel. And in this novel, you can see that they deeply care about each other. And I love this development of the relationship. I love how the novel kind of takes a step back from the fantasy to give a more in-depth look at these characters, because they are such strong enigmatic characters. I mean, Lavon, she's such a strong character. I love her so much. I can't get enough of her. I love how she is also a healer. She knows medicinal arts. You know, she is a very charismatic, strong-willed woman, and she's amazing, honestly. I love her development. I love her narrative. I love how she has grown in this novel. Same with Dal. You know, in the first novel, he was forced to be a mute because they were on a secret mission. And now he is blind. And he goes through so many bouts of depression, anger, resentment, and once again, this goes to their dynamic. Leoban pulls him out of it, and he becomes stronger for it, and he's able to challenge his brother's authority. And I thought that was brilliant. I thought it was brilliantly done how their story unfolds together, because, you know, at first it kind of seems like there are two stories that are going on here between Brock and Laban and Dal, because it's, you know, Brock left, you know, he married the Fairy Queen, so I was a little hesitant. I was actually a little worried he wasn't going to get a perspective in the story, but he does get a perspective. You know, he himself is adjusting to a new life as a half fae creature, and he has to contend with a very powerful wife, and the fact that his voice, his music keeps the crow folk away. So it's so interesting to see his story unfold, and as the overall story unfolds, it's interesting to see how it's brought together, how these two storylines are brought together and how they tie together. You know, they tie together quite nicely in like a neat little bow. And I love that. You know, sometimes I read stories and I'm like, it feels like there are two things happening here. I didn't get that feeling here. Yes, they're worlds apart, but you can see these underlying hints that something is unfolding between them, between these two storylines, until they converge again. And I like that. You get to feel the momentum, you feel the tension, you feel it build up. You're like, you know, these two arcs are going to converge at some point. So you're really anticipating it. And it really does make the story overall quite interesting. Sorry, my son is playing with my dog. My mom's dog, really. And it's very cute. But I digress. You know, I thought it was such a well-constructed story because it brings in these two storylines and it develops them in such a way to create tension and highlight the difficulties that both parties are feeling. But it also highlights their characters, you know, their dynamics, how they've changed so much from the first novel, because they have changed so much from who they were in the first novel to who they are now. And I thought that was really engaging. I loved how Dal and Leoban's relationship flourished in this novel, given everything that they have to endure. And I love that Brock's story, while it feels separate, joins in with the story quite well. You know, I thought that was it just highlights Marillier's excellent skill at writing, at storytelling, at character development, because they're more mature. I feel like the characters are more mature in this novel than they were in the previous novel, and only a few seasons have passed. I think 3 seasons have passed, so it hasn't even been a year yet from the first novel. And I mean, I thought it was so good. I devoured this book. I absolutely devoured it. You know, like I said, I'm really picky when it comes to my adult fiction, my high fantasy, because I'm not always sure that I'm going to like it. But God, this was such a well-written novel. It was so good. I absolutely loved it. I can't say that enough, how much I just loved this story. I loved how it unfolded. So, once again, this was A Dance with Fate by Juliet Marillier. I highly recommend it. You can go ahead and purchase from bookshop.org. Highly recommend bookshop.org because a percentage of all proceeds do go to supporting local booksellers. If money's too tight, which I know for a lot of us it is, I highly recommend checking the book out from your local library. Libraries are a great resource for the community, and they deserve the community support. And I hope you will support me by subscribing to my podcast. Hope you all have a great rest of your day, and as always, happy reading.